Today I want to follow up on the discussion about Cold One cavalry and take a look at the lizard variety. As an Empire player, for the longest time I have been getting absolutely bullied by these guys. Yeah, today I'm going to be trying to apply those lessons to Noldor's Empire. Basically, this is something that Falcon used to do to me all the time whenever we would play this matchup, is to overwhelm me with Cold One riders. So, obviously they're Cold One cavalry, they're going to have lesser model count and HP than a traditional cavalry unit, but they do have sweet armor-piercing damage, and in this matchup, the specific interaction that we care about is with Empire Knights. They beat Empire Knights handedly, they always have, and that's still the case. The armor-piercing damage, the stats are more or less the same, certainly less charge bonus, but that huge armor-piercing weapon damage means that it's a trade that's always been very inefficient from the Empire's perspective, and because of that, it often leads to kind of a cascade in this matchup where it's a bit awkward to know how to build here, and certainly if you're facing a player who knows how to use it well. Like here, I've got the Saurus Oldblood with support abilities just to juice up those extra combat stats. He also has a one-time use damage resistance. Amulet of Itzel here for 18 seconds can kind of bail himself out of trouble. He's a decent enough combatant up on the Carnosaur as well. Decent weapon strength, not the most HP in the world. Similar to the Cold One Rider, is a little bit glass cannon to a degree, but certainly great offensive output and very cost effective. Noldor's brought Karl Franz here, so he's definitely going to have a big, tough opponent to stand up against. For the rest of the build, we've got Saurus Warriors, a couple of them in the front, some Red Crests in the back, Skink cohort, Jabs, regular cohort, 2 Feral Bastillodons for air support in the infantry fight, and then of course 4 Cold One Riders. Noldor coming in here, he's got Karl Franz up in the air, some swordsmen, Captain in the center with Sigmar's sons, Spearmen out to the flanks, huntsmen, crossbowmen, and archers, and the silver bullets as well. Jade Wizard and the Hammer of Witches. Definitely would have been better to just go full-on wagon spam here, but I have to respect Noldor for not doing that. Wagons weren't always as good as they are now, certainly in terms of damage and speed. Likewise, Empire Knights also got a speed buff, but it doesn't matter that much in this matchup because of Lizard's propensity for poison projectiles. Typically, your cavalry, from the Empire's perspective, will be slowed down to that previous speed, and Cold One Riders here, we're going to get a clean engagement. So as this big engagement plays out in the background, Karl charging in the front, let's keep our focus here. And initially on the charge, it's going to be okay. Certainly Empire Knights will seem to trade about evenly, but as that fight starts to wear on, it would have gone the other direction. Now, obviously, with the Saurus Oldblood, another unit of Cold One Riders diving in, that's going to be particularly one-sided. But meanwhile, on the front line here, Saurus getting into the state troops. Saurus lowish melee stats means they'll take a while to beat state troops, but that high weapon strength will allow them to get through eventually. Likewise, Bastillodons in combination with Saurus and Skinks and terrify away some of these Empire units. Hopefully break up into the second level, but already the Hammer of Witches is focused on Saurus Oldblood, doing some good damage to him so far. And in the front line, it looks like some of these troops are getting caught up shooting the Bastillodons, which is not terribly efficient. We want to probably focus on the Saurus best here, actually, in the frontline fight, but let's keep eyes on cavalry engagement over here. Big old pitched Empire Knights versus Lizard Cavalry in a melee grind. This is definitely a situation that favors the Lizards to a degree. Of course, Karl's in here doing attack animations, as is the Saurus Scarvet, but certainly Karl is a more potent combatant overall. Both have very strong support abilities, but you can see the difference here. The Empire Knights just get eaten up, terrified away. The Empire Swordsmen also losing out, whereas the Skink cohort are still here supporting, and now I'm bringing in my second wave of cavalry just to really finish things off. Now, that said, the Saurus Oldblood is still getting beat up pretty badly by Karl, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows for the Lizard cavalry engagement there on the flank. In the center, though, it's definitely looking much better for me as the Skinks are able to break through, utilize their excellent speed to get back here and pressure these missile units. Start to wrap them up a little bit here. Bastillodons also fighting. The Bastillodons, again, they're not going to really do much damage. They're mostly just here for terror routes, which certainly something they can do very cost effectively. Looking back up over on the far side here, Karl is continuing to grind it out quite admirably. And the Hammer of Witches shots also landing here. Probably the Hammer of Witches should have been focused on the Lizard Cavalry rather than on the Saurus Oldblood. Like, yes, defeating the Oldblood is certainly important, but Carl can more or less get the job done himself as long as he can get a clean engagement against him. Right now, Carl might be able to finish him off, but he is taking quite a bit of damage from the surround of the Lizard Cavalry here. But one unit of Reichsguard did manage to peel back, in fact, and get over to these Skinks, try and knock them off the Hammer of Witches, but the Cohort of Sotek are in hot pursuit there. Captain also being circle beaten by Saurus is just fine, but let's see. Can Carl escape from the Lizard Cavalry? That's the question right now. Does he have the mass to actually push through? And it looks like he does, just barely. It's a slow acceleration, but he is going to be able to extricate himself from that Lizard Cavalry blob. So it's a little bit of a point against them, but at the same time, they all have done decently. Over here, Saurus Oldblood dives in, gets on those Reichsguard. Again, going to get the Cold One Riders in here. Horn of Kygor and Stand Your Ground up to 66-53 on attack and defense with 43 charge bonus. They are just tearing those Reichsguard to shreds, and that's, again, even Reichsguard, which have better stats than your typical Empire Knights, right? So I will say, given that they're 850, you know, they're cheaper than Cold One Knights, right? These Cold One Riders for the Lizardmen. They're not armor-piercing, but just, or sorry, not anti-large. Obviously, very good armor-piercing, though, and just overall decent stats. That glass cannon status is definitely still real, although we'll have to do a comparison. I think they have more overall HP than the Cold One Knights, which is interesting to note. Of course, a lot of what people are saying is feeling underwhelming is based on their campaign cost and upkeep. Can't really speak too much to that. I mean, for the Dark Elf's perspective, last time I played a Dark Elf campaign in Immortal Empires, which granted was quite some time ago, I don't remember money really being that much of an issue for me past like turn 30 to 50-ish. You know, recruit turn times, cost for upkeep, cost for recruitment in campaign, not really stuff I can comment on too much since this is a multiplayer channel, but just wanted to bring to your attention that, in fact, in terms of battle performance, they are very good. If you use them in their intended role, they do sort of have the problem, and again, this kind of relates to campaign a little bit as I clean up the last of these Sigmar's Sons. They do have the problem that they'll die in the battle often, even if they do pay for themselves, just due to that glass cannon status. You know, oftentimes in a multiplayer battle, they'll do what you need them to, and it doesn't matter because it's not like you're taking that army into another battle, right? But in campaign, where you paid recruitment and upkeep costs for that unit, right, and then they get killed off in a battle, feels bad, definitely. Especially when it's on an auto-resolve, and you didn't notice, ask me how I know. But anyway, going into it here, you can see that the Lizard Cavalry just performs so cost-effectively, and even the two of them that don't pay for themselves don't really need to at the end of the day. The Saurus Oldblood sacrificing himself, also getting some pretty good value as well, just enabling those Lizard Cavalry to run roughshod, and even in the event of mass wagons here, I mean, as long as you can kind of get through the infantry line with the Bastildons and Saurus and everything in concert, the biggest thing is you can maybe try and catch the war wagons with the Cold One Riders. They're going to take a lot of damage in the process. Generally, my best advice against war wagons these days is just to try and weather through the ammo as best you can. You know, eat the ammo on maybe like the Bastildons or other targets which are not wildly important, rather than eating it, say, on the cavalry or on the Saurus Oldblood. But definitely wagons, like a quad wagon with protecting mobility, would be a scary thing for me to try and deal with here. But I feel like Lizardmen could probably get it done. Regardless, looking at the rest of the build here, Skink cohorts can be very cost-effective. Those javelins into, like, you know, halberds, especially flagellant, stuff like that. But then here, Skink cohort with 976 value. Absolutely beautiful. The cannon's an interesting choice. It does actually end up paying for itself, even with the ROR cost factored in. Again, I don't know that it was necessarily tactically the best to be shooting at the Saurus Oldblood the whole time. You know, maybe you could have hit some of the cavalry models, although 47 kills probably did kill a decent number of those Cold One models just firing into that blob. But then Empire Knights, I mean, this build is kind of designed to counter them specifically, along with the Reichsguard, so they definitely just get run over. And then infantry, without any support, also, again, the combination of the Bastildons and the Skinks is a lot for them to have to deal with. Stationary missile units can be a bit of a liability for the Empire. It depends on the Lizard build. You know, sometimes you can get away with using them, certainly, but against a Lizard Cavalry build, which is definitely my preferred way of playing Lizards into Empire, it can be rough to try and protect these stationary missile units. Definitely, you know, wagons and pistoliers are going to be better bet wagons almost always. But anyway, that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.